Back in the 1920s and 1930s, the world was nervous. World War I had ended, but global tensions were still floating around, like that awkward silence after a family argument. Countries didn't trust each other. Everyone was preparing just in case. The United States created a series of military strategies called color-coded war plans. There was a plan for Japan, a plan for Germany, even a plan for fighting multiple countries at once. And for Britain, they called it War Plan Red. Now here's where it gets interesting. Since Canada was part of the British Empire at the time, if the US ever fought Britain, Canada would automatically be involved. So yes, the US had a plan to invade Canada. Take a second to imagine that. Two neighbors who share the longest peaceful border in the world, planning for war against each other. It sounds like two friendly neighbors arguing over lawn space and suddenly drafting blueprints for a full castle siege. But this wasn't random. Military planned. Believed that if war broke out with Britain, Canada would be the closest and easiest target. If the US could quickly capture major Canadian cities, it would weaken Britain's position in North America. So what was the strategy? The plan was surprisingly detailed. The US would launch fast attacks into key Canadian cities like Toronto, Montreal, and Halifax. They wanted to cut off British supply lines, take control of important ports, and stop reinforcements from crossing the Atlantic. There were even ideas about blocking Canadian railways and using naval forces to control the Great Lakes. Basically, it was a move fast, hit hard, finish early strategy. Think of it like trying to win a chess match by immediately targeting the opponent's queen instead of slowly moving pawns. But here's the twist. Canada also had a plan. Yes, Canada wasn't just sitting there politely saying, "Sorry, please don't invade us." Canada created something unofficially known as Defense Scheme Number 1. Their idea? If war seemed likely, they would launch quick attacks into parts of the northern United States first. Places like Seattle, Minneapolis, and even parts of New York, to disrupt American mobilization before retreating back into Canada. It was basically, if you're coming at us, we're going to knock on your door first. Imagine two peaceful neighbors secretly planning how to steal each other's Wi-Fi if things ever got ugly. Now here's the important part. None of this ever happened. There was no invasion, no battles, no dramatic border clashes. Why? Because these plans were just precautions. Military planners are paid to think about worst-case scenarios. It doesn't mean leaders wanted war. It just means they didn't want to be unprepared. In fact, during World War II, instead of fighting each other, the United States and Canada became close allies. They fought side by side against common enemies. The same countries that once planned to invade each other ended up defending the world together. History can be ironic like that. So why does this matter today? Because it shows us something fascinating about how governments operate. Behind the scenes, they prepare for possibilities most people never imagine, even between friendly nations. It also reminds us how relationships between countries can completely transform. At one point, military officials were calculating how to capture Toronto. Today, Americans and Canadians cross the border for shopping trips, hockey games, and vacations. People argue about maple syrup brands instead of battle strategies. And honestly, that's a much better upgrade. The secret plan to invade Canada wasn't about hatred. It wasn't about aggression. It was about uncertainty in a tense global environment. And maybe there's a bigger lesson here. Sometimes, plans are made not because we want conflict, but because we fear being unprepared. Think about it in real life. You buy insurance not because you want something bad to happen, but because you want to be ready if it does. War Plan Red was basically national-level, just-in-case insurance. Strange? Yes. Dramatic? Definitely. But also very human. And here's the final thought that might surprise you. The fact that these plans were never used, and that the US and Canada became long-term allies, might be one of the greatest success stories of diplomacy.